What if I told you that some of the most memorable classic American cars weren't designed to please anyone? Designs that didn't aim for consensus, that didn't ask for approval, that split opinions from day one. Cars some people see as masterpieces and others as unforgivable mistakes, because there was a moment in American automotive history when design stopped playing it safe. Manufacturers got bold. They risked entire brand identities. They pushed shapes, proportions, and ideas further than anyone expected. Some of those cars were hated in their time, and today they're icons. Others never stopped being controversial. And here comes the uncomfortable question. Does a design have to be beautiful to be great? In this video, we're exploring classic American cars that went all in on design. 1974 to 1978, Ford Mustang II. Few cars in American history were rejected before they were even understood, quite like the Mustang II. When Ford introduced it in the mid-1970s, the reaction was immediate and emotional. This is not a Mustang. This betrays the legacy. They've ruined the name. The problem was not only the design, although the design hurt too. The Mustang II was smaller, taller, simpler, and far less visually aggressive than its predecessor. In an era shaped by the oil crisis, emissions regulations, and deep cultural changes, Ford made a rational decision, but one that triggered an emotional backlash. It was never meant to be a muscle car. It was designed to survive, to be efficient, affordable, and suitable for a new reality. But the public was not ready to see the Mustang name associated with something so restrained, so domestic, so unintimidating. Visually, the car almost looked fragile. Soft lines, compact proportions, and a presence that never suggested rebellion or power. For many, it became the perfect example of a design that had gone too far in the wrong direction. And yet, here lies the great contradiction. The Mustang II was a commercial success. It saved the Mustang name during one of the most difficult periods in the industry. It sold well, kept the brand alive, and allowed the Mustang to return later with a renewed identity. It was hated by enthusiasts, but necessary for history's market. The Mustang II remains one of the most affordable Mustangs. A well-preserved example typically ranges between $15,000 and $30,000, with special editions or exceptional condition cars reaching slightly higher figures. And now, I want to know your opinion. Do you think the Mustang II deserves the hate it has carried for decades? Or was it a misunderstood design that did exactly what it had to do at the worst possible moment? Let me know in the comments, because this car says much more about us than it does about Ford. 1977 to 1979, Lincoln Continental Mark V. While the rest of the industry was trying to downsize, simplify lines, and adapt to a new economic reality, Lincoln decided to do the exact opposite. The Mark V was gigantic, exaggerated, and deliberately ostentatious. An extremely long hood, massive body, nearly rigid straight lines, abundant chrome, and a presence that seemed to completely ignore the oil crisis and the shifting mindset of the late 1970s. For many, this car represented everything that was wrong with the American automobile industry at the time. It was not just big, it was excessive on purpose. Lincoln was not wrong by accident. It was defending a very clear idea of luxury: size, weight, presence, and absolute comfort. It did not apologize. It did not try to adapt. It was a statement of cultural resistance against a world that was beginning to demand moderation. And that was the risk. For some buyers, the Mark V was the last stronghold of classic American luxury. For others, it was a caricature, a symbol of excess out of place, a car that seemed stuck in a decade that had already ended. Visually, its design bordered on theatrical. The proportions were so extreme, they almost felt unreal. And precisely because of that, they generated rejection among those already looking toward Europe or toward more compact, rational cars. What is interesting is that, in its own context, it perfectly fulfilled its promise. It was quiet, smooth, comfortable, and delivered a driving experience isolated from the outside world. It did not try to be agile or modern. It aimed to be imposing. Over time, that unapologetic attitude became its greatest strength. Today, the Mark V is seen as one of the last great expressions of American luxury excess, a car that pushed that philosophy to the limit before it disappeared forever. In today's market, a well-preserved Lincoln Continental Mark V typically ranges between $20,000 and $40,000. With exceptional or extremely well-maintained examples, exceeding that figure. 1960 to 1969, Chevrolet Corvair Monza. This is one of the most interesting risks in this entire video, because it was not controversial only because of its appearance. It was controversial for something much deeper. It dared to be un-American at a time when that was almost a sin. While Detroit continued investing in large, heavy cars with front-mounted V8 engines, Chevrolet introduced a compact model with an idea that seemed straight out of Europe. Rear engine, clean lines, different proportions, and handling that did not feel like a traditional American sedan. For some, it was modern and elegant. For others, it was a strange car that did not fit the country's automotive identity. The Monza, in particular, refined that concept and made it appealing. It was not just an experimental compact. It was a Corvair with aesthetic intention, a youthful touch, and a more aspirational identity. And that is where the risk lies. Chevrolet was trying to convince the public that a small, different car could be desirable. But the real debate exploded because of its configuration and reputation. The Corvair became marked by public safety controversies and discussions about its handling characteristics. That turned the car into an uncomfortable symbol. For some, proof that Detroit could innovate. For others, proof that innovation could be dangerous. The irony is that today, the design feels far more coherent than it did at the time. Its styling is clean, simple, and almost timeless within the context of the 1960s. It is one of those cars that, as time passes, feels less strange and more courageous. In today's collector market, a well-preserved Corvair Monza typically ranges between $18,000 and $35,000, with special versions or high-quality restorations reaching higher values. 1934 to 1937, Chrysler Airflow. This car was not controversial because it was ugly. It was controversial because it was incomprehensible for its time. In an era when American cars still followed square, separated, almost industrial shapes, Chrysler decided to apply real aerodynamic principles to the design of a production automobile. The result was a low, rounded, flowing car with proportions completely different from anything seen on the roads in the 1930s. To the mindset of that era, the Airflow looked strange, soft, even wrong. Many buyers distrusted it purely because of its appearance. It did not look solid. It did not look proper. It did not look like what a car was supposed to be. And that was the market's mistake, because technically, the Airflow was years ahead of its time. Its aerodynamic design improved high-speed stability, reduced wind noise, and delivered a safer, more refined driving experience than most of its contemporaries. It was not designed for the sake of design. It was engineering shaping form, but the public was not ready. The Airflow asked for something very difficult, accepting a car that did not resemble the past. And at that moment, that was too much. Sales were disappointing, and Chrysler was forced to quickly abandon the concept, not because it was bad, but because it was too advanced. With time, history proved relentlessly fair. Many of the ideas the Airflow introduced became standard decades later. What was once rejected ended up defining the future of automotive design. Today, the Chrysler Airflow is considered one of the most important cars in American automotive history, not because of its commercial success, but because of its conceptual bravery. In today's collector market, a well-preserved Airflow typically ranges between $70,000 and $120,000, with exceptional examples reaching even higher values. 1970 Plymouth Superbird. This car was not designed to be liked. It was designed to win, and that is obvious from every angle. The enormous aerodynamic nose, the absurdly tall rear wing, and the completely exaggerated proportions made the Superbird look, from day one, like a car that did not belong in everyday life. Many called it grotesque. Others openly laughed at it. On the street, it seemed like a joke that cost too much. But the Superbird was not built for traffic lights. It was built for NASCAR. Every visual decision had a clear purpose: reducing drag, increasing high-speed stability, and allowing Plymouth to compete at the highest level on the track. The problem was that to race it, they had to homologate it, and that meant selling it to the public exactly as it was. The result was one of the most radical cars ever legally driven on public roads. Visually, it crossed every acceptable line of traditional automotive design. It was not elegant. It was not discreet. It did not try to blend in. It was pure function turned into form, without any aesthetic filter for popular taste. And yet, beneath that almost cartoonish appearance, the Superbird was brutally effective. With high-performance V8 engines, including Hemi versions, it reached speeds no American production car had achieved before. On the track, it was dominant. On the street, misunderstood. The public did not know what to do with it. Sales were low. Many dealerships had to offer discounts to move units. The car was too extreme, too specific, too honest about its purpose. With time, that honesty became legend. Today, the Plymouth Superbird is one of the most desired and valuable American classics in the world. In today's market, an authentic example can easily exceed $300,000. A car that was ridiculed for its design and ultimately revered precisely because it never asked permission to exist. At this point, one thing is clear. These cars were not accidental mistakes. They were conscious decisions. Some were hated from day one. Others needed decades to be understood. And a few still divide opinions even today. And now, I want to hear your final opinion. Of all the cars we explored today, which one do you think pushed design too far? And which one deserved to be defended from the very beginning? Leave it in the comments because this video is not complete without that debate. And if you are interested in seeing how far boldness could go in another dimension, I recommend watching the video currently on screen. There, we explore the most expensive muscle cars of the 1960s, cars that were just as extreme in price as these were in design, machines that challenged not only taste, but also the wallets of their time. Click and continue with us exploring the boldest decisions in American automotive history. See you in the next video.